zetu za afternoon. Miziki imeisha, so tumeanza maongeo ya afternoon. Ya kwanza pengine is a quick review of the last month. A friend of mine told me that a man is as good as his back, his history knowledge is. If you find a person who does not have any history knowledge, then that person becomes a totally useless character. I hope we are not useless people. I hope God is working through us to create a better generation, a better people who can be relied upon to do things. And with that, that is why in this month of January was again a starting of the breaking away from the last 2 months. If you remember, 15th of October is when Raila Amolo Odinga left us, passed on. And the life in ODM has never been the same. If somebody can tell you about that, more about that, let him tell you. If somebody has been a keen follower of what has been going on, would agree with me, A to Z, that things have not been very easy. Things have not been the same since we took to the fever of the passing on of our patriarch, Raila Amolo Odinga. That this man had so many members of the family. We thank him in a way that he kept them away. He kept us away from the crowd. Keep the family away from the crowd. I think it's a very important matter, unless it is relevant, unless the kind of crowd that is coming in is the kind members of family who are coming through are ones who are interested with the topic of the crowd. Otherwise, let family affairs be family affairs, and let public affairs be public affairs. I'm saying so because until Winnie opened up our eyes, there were things that we were taking for granted. And maybe somebody, a super architect at a certain corner, was also seeing an opportunity that these things would be taken for granted, and that is what he was dreaming of. The main thing which was being sold, and we had not been prepared for it, if you recall, all of you, is about Raila Amolo Odinga. Given that he passed on, suddenly who had the right words, the right sentiments that we had just before departure? 20 minutes away from the time he passed on, and this is what we were saying, and so this is the right direction people should be going to. I think Raila was like an explorer, and what we sometimes forget is that we gave him what you would call in other circles purple infallibility. How do we call purple infallibility? We call purple infallibility means a person is like a pope. A pope can never be wrong. Is it because a normal person has every reason and every right to be wrong? He can expose a position which is not correct, and he'll of course turn to people around after some failure. I'm just saying about the same Raila, for whoever was very clear on the year 1997 may have seen what happened. In the year 1997, there was to frame this one, but it was a big one. The issue that after the elections of 1997, I think I'm correct in that time. In 1997, we were expecting Raila to do well. He didn't do very well. He got to become number 3. I think it was a question of KANU had to leave number 2 in order to work together number 1 in order to say yes, this is the person who is going to take us forward. And so the merger of KANU to LDP was to Moi a final blow to LDP. But because Raila is also used to be a very tough negotiator, The second issue was coming strongly was that give him nice lots, otherwise he'll bolt. And President Moi tried at that time to give him nice slots. I remember that he was absorbed inside, and at one time, immediately after, there was the Kasarani. And because Kanu had a mechanism of just simply alerting the cells that this is what the party leader wants, and the cells go and converge the delegates conference, and they speak with one voice. So all the cells of Kanu had been activated to say the next party secretary general is not Kamodho. The next party secretary general is Raila Odinga. It came as a surprise to even this existing secretary general at that time, Kamodho, that he is being asked to step aside for a person from the opposition side. But it was also obvious that the person from the opposition side, that's Raila Amolo Odinga, had support of a substantial amount of people. At that time, NDP was not as big as Orange. So NDP had people, and it was a big movement. So at that time, I remember that is when that was the time when even Saitoti was done away with. He was told Sasa Wewe, party deputy chairman. You know, those days was the party chairman is the running party leader, and that was President Moi. The party deputy chairman should have been the vice chairman should have been the vice president under that constitution. The vice was also very strong, though not as strong as the deputy. I don't think that anybody who has analyzed the things of later can say that it's not as strong as deputy, because they probably must have seen that even current status, the deputy, Gachagua said, yes, tumegawa hii kitu 50-50, ulikuja na nusu, na mimi nikakuja na nusu. That is what he said in theory, but when it came to call, when a call was made during his impeachment, he was shown that there is a boss and number two. You can't say it's 50-50. It's not 50-50. The only position which is 50-50 is where you have a president elected as a president. Then you have a person with the most majority members of parliament, like in the year 2007, who then becomes a prime minister. That man can say, I have my people, I can pull them up. But when you are a deputy, that means you are surviving under the structures provided for by the number one. So anytime you want to expose or represent a position which is opposed to number one, you have to ask yourself, is this possible? Is this reasonable? Am I safe? Otherwise, you'll find yourself, together with the position you are trying to expose, to have become relevant. And once you are relevant, utasindikizwa nyumbani. And once umesindikizwa nyumbani, there is no appeal, because it shows, especially in an existing party, all these other people are loyalists, for lack of a better word. They are all loyalists of the number one. So he can tell them, are you willing still to toe the line? If you are willing to toe the line, then help me to push this other person by telling you are out of order, either in form of impeachment or otherwise. So ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are. Simbanest Radio with you, Simbanest TV with you, Simbanest everything with you. The media is already soon back on Beehive Papers. The people who have been following Simbanest media newsletters, the newsletters constantly still come out. Now utazipata on our portal anytime. We are reviewing the current month of January 2026, and what is coming out majorly is the shots and the beatings that the party ODM has received on the last 3 months. And this is as a result of everybody coming up and saying we were with Baba before he passed on. We have realized that now even it's dangerous to say I was with him. And I remember when Honorable Winnie Odinga was recently asked, what is your relations with again my name slips. That name slips. Okay, nevertheless, that name slips. But she went ahead and said one thing. What did she say? She said it's a shame that people are walking on the streets whereby if they are probably interrogated in a proper way, then they are defined to be distinct to two places. One is a mental hospital. The other one across the road is DCI Kiambu. DCI meaning that according to her perception is that such a person needs to urgently report himself so that his character, his background can be reviewed. Yeah, because Salah Okech, I remember when those papers were coming in, the earliest moment Raila introducing him to a close circle of his neighbors and friends and say, yes, this is my friend, this is my friend. And he moves him closer to say, this is my friend. He's a person from Migori. He's a Kushite from Migori. And somehow he's my friend. And probably anybody who was in close relations with Baba, you would appreciate one thing which would work with Baba. If I had a fat pocket, Baba would walk around with me. Because he would drive around, he would expend things, but he always avoided spending his money if the entourage. I remember we are politicians, some of us here, and we contested positions. Just an MCA sitting next to him will end up paying the bills, not him. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me when and where. But if you are of value to him, you should have a deep pocket. The only person who has been brave enough to mention that is Dallas. I know people like Kidero may not have that courage to say. So his introductions of this person as yes, this is a son of Migori, but coming from the other side, that was the first time that he was introduced. The second time that he appears to be introduced is he's now saying, this is my inherited son. Of course, if he was useful on a daily basis, there had to be a better relations and there had to be a better introduction system. So Kumwita graduated from who is son of a gentleman from Migori to who this is now my son. The affection arises from depth of the pocket. And so when Winnie says finally that this man may have traveled with her father, but it was not a close confidant, I can understand where she's coming from. Hello, don't quote me, but whenever you go to town and you walk to an ATM and you remove money, is that ATM your close confidant? Just ask yourself that. Whenever you press your numbers and you press the M-Pesa button and you remove money from M-Pesa, would you call that phone your close confidant? It's not a close confidant. He's a means to an end, and he's serving you a purpose which is quite admirable, but we all have to agree that it's a means to an end. It is only unfortunate that when probably somebody then passes on and in the middle of such transaction or whatever, then the ATM says, I was the last person who was with him. Yes, of course, the last person who was with him, but it was such that the relation was such that he could not have had reason to tell you A, B, C, and D. And that, the kind of thing, whatever is coming from your mouth, may be more compelled now by the fact that the other parties have seen value in that your close relationship, and now want to capitalize by telling you, okay, we can pay you so much because you are, after all, you are the person who was not really very close to him, but you walked with him around up to 20 meters from the way it was passing on. I remember this lady Winnie again then saying that that if this person was saying the last words of Raila was only heard by him, that person is lying. I can't blame her for that, because I'm getting the impression that the mzee may have died at the hands of physiotherapists, may have died at the hands of physiotherapists. There's the people who are walking around, the people who are making him to walk every morning, the people who are guiding him, and after that, the physiologist who was handed over to when his respiration was not getting very, he was starting to have challenges with the respiration. But at that stage, there is no guarantee that this gentleman, Salah, was there. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Simbanes Radio, Sauti ya Mwananchi. Be that as it may, this is our voice, this is our fun, this is where we come from. We thank you very much for the support that you have received all through the month of December. December was fun time. December we enjoyed ourselves. December we took our time to day and day do a scorecard. We also now thank you for the month of January, where we are now at the tail end. We are confident that you will guide us more. We are confident that you will show us now what to do next. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Simbanes Radio, Sauti ya Mwananchi. With that, we are coming almost to a close. But before we come into a close, we also want to review on any other two things that may have happened. Because people review months only with the politics, but also must be sensitive to the fact that there are other areas. Say, for example, we are looking at the month of February. Catholics are very substantial in number. Kenya being a Christian country, and some Catholics are quite substantial, and from next month is where they are building what you call election of the chairman of what? The small cell. What is called the small cell? Jumuiya. Jumuiyas are very effective. Jumuiyas are very important in conveying conversation down to the people, and we respect that. We respect that. We wish them well come the month of February. And that's also a very important part. So, the month of January has ended again with the score card not very clear. Remember, it started with the month of October, the burial of Mzee Raila Amolo Odinga. And during the month of October, I would say the president was smart. He gave very wonderful things to this person because he was an acquaintance. Raila Amolo Odinga was a very close acquaintance to the President Dr. William Samoei Ruto. And also towards the end, he said on the 24th of June 2024, on the 25th June 2024, had Raila not come out strongly and said, we want a united country. We don't want people to use temporary fracas or disagreement to crash down governments, because there is no way of replacing it. That's when vultures who are planning to use this content previously cultivated by ODM and their team fraternity which built the Azimio. Hiyo ndio wakati watu walikuwa wanatembea na sufuria kwa vichwa. Hiyo ndio wakati watu walikuwa wanapiga sufuria kama wanazunguka. Hiyo ndio the time when tear gas walikuwa wanakunywa kama maji, I remember, in pipeline, and as they were eating tear gas, ladies would come out of their houses, ladies of ODM, and would shout out of their houses, leta maji tuwamwagilie, and they would pour water, and water would diminish the power of tear gas. The voice of the common mwananchi was therefore at that time being pronounced that we want change. And this built up for a good period of time, but unfortunately towards the end of it, it was quietly being hijacked by none other than the people who were in the system. On the at the apex of that rebellion, on the 25th of June 2024, as the president was talking in the afternoon, trying to quell people from State House, which had just arrived within a few hours, because I think even him, he was so much terrorized that these people are going to get there. As he was making his announcements, also his deputy was waiting, preparing, hoping that he's going to go down, so that by 5 p.m. he was also going to call a separate press meeting. That was the epitome of rebellion. Let us not shy away from that. The epitome of rebellion was not the time of impeachment. It was the time of intention to voluntarily rebel, number two, rebel against number one, and publicly embarrass and shame number one. That, I think, was very difficult for everybody, because such scenarios, sometimes when you let it loose, there's no guarantee that it's going to stop. And the more